Okay, greetings everyone and welcome to our Revolution East Bay's monthly meeting. We're ready to start now. People will still be coming in. This meeting is being recorded and later, probably tomorrow or the next day, it'll be on Facebook and I think also on YouTube. Is it going to be on both?
We hope. I think Ina can put it up on YouTube.
Okay, the first thing I want to mention that really soon we're going to start the process of endorsing candidates again. Right now, we're working on updating our endorsement form. We want to tighten up a little bit about who we endorse because it's been a little loose here and there, and anybody can check off yes, 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 that they believe in whatever. And we want to make it, we really want to know who we're endorsing more than we've done in the past. And we've been pretty tight in the past, but it's going to get tighter. Okay, so it's possible our next meeting will be an endorsement meeting, but that's not a promise, it's a possibility. So I think we're getting ready to move into what today's meeting is about. As we were trying to put the meeting together, it was like, oh, should we do this? Should we do that? And then we started thinking about all the women we know, and Women's History Month just ended 2 days ago. So we're extending it 2 days just to acknowledge all the great women that are here today and that really keep things going in the Bay Area. There's other women out there. We couldn't bring 50 women in, but we did manage to get 7 really powerful people. So anyway, these are the women who are actually making history right now. The people we've got today are Elisa Victory, Monica Wilson, Tamisha Torres Walker, Jennifer Easton, Nikki Fortuna Boss, Javanka Beckles, and Pamela Price. So I think we're ready. Sherry, do you want to introduce Elisa?
Sure. If everybody would please mute yourself if you're not a speaker. We will be calling on for questions after each of our speakers, and we'll do that by raising hands. So if you can just be cognizant of our speakers and turn off your microphones. All right, I think I love this topic of today's meeting of empowered women and empowering women. And that's kind of a twofold thing. It's not just that these women started to fight for their rights and fight for us. And one of the criteria that I always use is Bernie's quote of, you have to fight for somebody you don't even know. And I think that is probably our guiding principle as far as who we should support are the people who will actually stand up for their community, will stand up for the rights of others, even though they may not even know them. And our first speaker, Elisa Victory Villanova, is such an inspiration to me because she is a young woman who is Oakland born and raised. She has made a difference in her community. She ran for mayor. She is now currently a delegate to the Democratic Party for 8018. She has a regular program on the Black Business Roundtable called Victory Corner, which I love. And she is she even had to fight to be on the ballot to be a candidate for mayor. So this is a wonderful woman who is championing our rights and our issues in Oakland. And we're so glad to hear from her. Elisa?
Thank y'all for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I've got 2 slides to share just because I know some people are visual learners. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my mayor's race and the recent ADEMS delegate race. So if you don't know me, I'm Elisa Victory, Victory Villanueva on the ballot. I am an Oakland native. I was the only progressive candidate in the mayor's race who was from Oakland, raised here, who was lived in all 7 of our city districts, and even overcome homelessness when I was a teenager growing up here. I was the only attorney in the race. I'm a civil rights lawyer for ACLU NorCal full-time as a police practices attorney. I'm also a union lawyer for CWA 9415 and a union member. I'm the only candidate that was running while working full-time, and I think only was able to take around a month off. So I was a working class candidate. I'm a renter. I had to actually move in the middle of election due to issues with the property I was staying at and the passing of my godson's parents. I launched my race around a year before the election occurred and launched with my union hall, with many early endorsers from grassroots candidates, from Dems, from people on this call right now. I was the grassroots candidate the entire year that I was running. I was considered the underdog because I never ran for city office before, and I raised around $30,000, which was pretty low for all of the serious candidates. There were 10 candidates in the race total, and there would have been 13, but 3 were kicked off by the clerk's office. I was caught up in some of that and illegally disqualified for around 2.5 weeks. And I, being a civil rights attorney, know what my rights are, know what our city code says, and was able to successfully fight my way back onto the ballot. And so I'm the only candidate that had to go through all of that legal ordeal. They didn't even want me to use my last names on the ballot, tried to bar me and make up some rules. So there was a lot that I was working against, a lot of uphill battles, but I'm so grateful that our revolution endorsed me and ranked endorsements. I had endorsements from pretty much every progressive organization in the region. I even had ranked endorsements from groups like our Black Chamber of Commerce in Oakland. I was able to successfully message that we have a ranked choice election. Oakland has had ranked choice voting for over 10 years. And this cycle, this past 2020-2022 election had 5 options instead of 3 that most voters were used to. And I was able to message that. You see some of the graphics that my campaign made that are here on the PowerPoint. And we also organized to make sure we got out the votes. And that's the only way I could make up for the fundraising difference, is by the people powered. The photo in the bottom left-hand corner is our field kickoff. And that was done in partnership with DA Pamela Price's campaign, with Janani Ramachandran for city council, with our school board candidates. And so I organized and aligned with multiple campaigns, not just in the mayor's race for ranked choice. And to be honest, a lot of the candidates in the mayor's race didn't really get behind a ranked choice strategy, even though the progressive organizations created a ranked choice message, created flyers, and that's what you see in the bottom right corner is one of the flyers that my team projected as digital billboards. Up in the top kind of middle is a photo of me the weekend right before election with candidate Greg Hodge. And that was the one and only event that we did together as 2 progressive Black candidates in West Oakland. So there was some ranking, but I still messaged it. And it was clear once votes were counted that our ground game worked, that your endorsements worked, that our ranked choice messaging worked. Because despite being out fundraised, right, out popularized with my name recognition, I still came in 4th place out of all 10 candidates. And the 3 candidates that got more first place votes than me all had to out fundraise me around 20-1 and had the benefits of independent expenditures that spent collectively over $3 million in support of those candidates. So I didn't have any of that. And so, while we didn't win, Oakland still did. It was clear that my ranked choice voting transfers to Sheng Tao was decisive in electing her as our new mayor. And our revolution did rank endorse her as well. So thank y'all again for your support, for your endorsements, for people who came out and volunteered, who donated, who helped spread the word. All of it, every single vote counted. And we also did a lot of voter registration and got new voters in the mix on this campaign. And I'll share just a few comments around our ADEMS election. So I was elected in 2021 as part of an independent slate, and only 3 of our members that cycle got elected. This cycle, I ran again, really encouraged by our revolution. When I went to your picnic celebrating the elections, you all said, if you're going to lead a slate, we will support you. And knowing that I had your support, I said, okay, I'll run for re-election and organize a slate of 12 members. We would have had all 14 if the Dem Party didn't disenfranchise us. But our slate swept. All 12 of our members were elected. All of these are first-time delegates to this party. Some are new entirely to the party, haven't attended local meetings, haven't attended convention. And so we're really excited. Someone mentioned at the beginning of this call, we've been doing onboarding and just grounding training for the delegates beyond our assembly district ever since we were elected in February. That was a grassroots campaign. We were up against an assembly member sponsored slate that was handpicked and funded by Assembly Member Bonta. We had support from groups like you all. We had your people power. You helped host voter parties during the in-person election dates in our assembly district and our neighboring districts. And some of those pictures are on the slides, and that helped us to win and to win decisively. So thank you again for your endorsement in all the races that I've run. Thank you on behalf of the entire slate for endorsing all 12, because it helped us win, and not only some of us, as we saw last cycle, but all 12 of us won. And so I'll stop there and open up for any questions or comments.
Okay, Sherry, can you see any hands?
Can you take your screen down, Alyssa, so I can? There. Okay, let's do this. Again, that wonderful presentation about both of the things that I think are important, how she has taken her election in her own hands and worked the people power, and how she recruited others to join her movement and to join with us. So great job. Anybody interested in asking Alyssa a question?
Okay, if you don't.
Okay, I've got, is it Nijin? Nijin?
It's Nagin. Hi,
Nagin.
Elisa.
Okay, Nagin.
Yes, my question is, did you actually have a strategy with Singtao, or was that just by coincidence that the ranked choice worked for her? Or did you guys have like, vote for her first, vote for me second, or vote for me first, vote for her second? Had you guys planned something like that?
I'll have to say honestly, no. I did reach out and have meetings with all of the candidates in the race. It was clear that, you know, me, Shang, and Greg Hodge were the three that were being endorsed in whatever order by all of the progressive organizations, that many of them were encouraging us to take on an explicit RCV strategy. We never had a conversation about that or any agreement or strategy. She had started saying publicly at debates and forums that I was her number 2 choice. And so I used that to get support from people who had already endorsed her and supported her as number 1 to ask that they also endorse me as number 2. Many did, including Councilmember Nikki Bass, who will be speaking later on this meeting. But I don't think there was a real coordinated strategy. And again, Greg Hodge, we only partnered the last weekend before election. So I think a lot of the real strategy and things only came in like the last few weeks, months of the election, though I had tried to reach out and have that conversation early because I knew it was going to be critical to win.
Good question. Raphael?
Alyssa, thanks for joining us. So I've got sort of a broader question I'd like to ask candidates or people involved in politics who are lawyers or just who are interested in justice. And that question is, do you think that retribution can be a part of justice? And if it can be, do you think it has to be? That's my question.
Ooh, that is a heavy question. Well, DA Price is going to be speaking later on this meeting. I'll say it can be. I said right now there is not a lot of justice at all anywhere in our criminal justice system, in our legal system, right? So many people don't know what their rights are unless they can afford and access an attorney. And so I think the concept of justice is right now a concept that I still have not seen us realize in any of our systems. So I think it certainly can play a role, as do many other tenets of justice. And I think, I was running on economic justice, housing justice, racial equity, and worker justice, because it kind of has to come from all those angles. But so I don't have a more specific answer to your question or examples of that, but I think a lot needs to be done to kind of overhaul our justice systems overall.
Thank you. Joaquin?
Hi,
Joaquin?
yes, as KDAM member, do you have any thoughts about what are on the agenda for progressives? I imagine you're part of the Progressive Caucus, but what do you think we should be thinking about in terms of issues for the upcoming Democratic convention and how to change the party to the progressive way?
Thank you for the question. You can continue to support your progressive delegates. Many of us are here, and again, we're endorsed and supported by our revolution to do just that, continue turning the party, changing it, bringing more people in. I'm really committed to doing things outside the party, like voter registration, voter education, that I don't see the party doing enough of. On the progressive agenda, I know the caucus, again, is kind of trying to hold the party just accountable to what it's already committed to about, not taking fossil fuel money, not taking law enforcement money, advocating for CalCare. I believe they're going to pick up those same issues because we haven't seen them implemented. We haven't seen them pursued, and we haven't seen them done equally across the state. So those are some things we heard today on the training with some of the progressive delegates that included the Progressive Caucus chair. And we hope to hear even more about their meetings or what is going to happen at their caucuses during the convention. A lot of that, again, CDP is not confirmed what meetings and when they're going to happen. And so we're trying to be proactive on getting people to think about convention, what agendas and what campaigns even are going to be coming up. I'm glad to hear y'all are thinking about that a bit around endorsements, because we have like the Senate race and other key seats that are going to be coming up and are probably going to cause just a lot of debate around who's most progressive in their platform and their values. And again, who's not taking fossil fuel money, who's not taking law enforcement money. And I think our revolution will be a strong key player in identifying who is the progressive champions in those upcoming elections.
Thank you, Alyssa. Any other questions? Okay, shall we move on to our
Okay.
next speaker? Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Alyssa.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Okay, the way we're doing this, as far as intro, different OREB members are going to be introducing different candidates. Just so everybody gets to know who all of us are, or most of us. So the next two candidates are going to be introduced by Gordon Miller, who is a longtime activist. And I know everybody doesn't know him, but get to know him. Gordon, go for it.
Okay, our next person is Monica. I was going to say Monica Lewinsky. Excuse me. My apologies, especially to Monica. Monica Wilson, and she's with Antioch in East Contra Costa County City Council District number 4. And I posted her campaign website just now on chat. And we hope she'll be a strong progressive candidate, free and unencumbered by campaign contribution entanglements and so on. So having said that, take it away, Monica Wilson.
Thank you so much, Gordon. Thank you. And thank you to Our Revolution for supporting me in this last election cycle. So I don't have slides like Alyssa did. So I'm just gonna have to speak about this past election. So this 2022 election cycle was interesting and unique and hard all at the same time. This was a year that getting volunteers in this election cycle was really tough because a lot of people were really concerned about their safety, because there was a lot of people, we have a lot of people saying things on social media, and we don't know, you have to take everything very seriously. Is somebody going to attack me for supporting the wrong person? Is somebody going to attack me because this person disagreed with another council member or disagreed with law enforcement? So it was a little bit tricky getting volunteers, but we made it work. Sometimes it was just me, sometimes it was me and 2 or 3 other people, but we just made it work walking the district. So kind of my strategy in this election cycle was I went to all registered voters' doors. So it didn't matter if they were a Democrat, Republican, independent, I went to their door. Majority of the time, most people didn't answer, weren't home. So it was more lit dropping than actually door knocking. But if they were out on the street, I did talk to them. It also made things complicated in my whole time in living in Antioch, because I moved to Antioch in 2006. The Antioch Police Officers Association has never walked. Like, they pick a candidate, they give them some money, and then the candidate goes on their way. This time, the POA was walking my district for one of the candidates running against me, which was just odd. I'd never seen that in years. I don't know if they walked it. I'm assuming they walked into Misha's district, so I'll let her speak to that if that happened. So there was a lot of that going on, but I was able to continue, a lot of, I've been very consistent as an elected person and a candidate. I mean, I push, I'm a strong advocate and supporter of survivors of human trafficking and survivors of sexual assault, pushing policy, and then bringing a lot of awareness to it. A lot of people don't realize human trafficking is increasing in East Contra Costa County, and it is here on the streets, but it's also, we have individuals that are taken here from East County and taken to other places. So I'm constantly still talking about that. What I pushed for in 2020 was a 24-hour mental health response, crisis response team that should be up and running. It had a soft open and then it kind of had to be paused for a minute, but it should be up and running again in the next 2 weeks. Right now, I believe we're the only city in Contra Costa County that has that. I was also a council member that pushed for, and it got passed, no drilling, no oil and gas drilling in our city. And I will be pushing for no more new gas stations in our city. Fought alongside with Councilmember Torres Walker on passing rent control, and now really focusing on just cause and anti-harassment. And was really happy to support her in the creation of the Public Safety and Community Engagement Department. We still have a lot of issues to push. We pushed some police reform, but haven't gotten everything that we like across the board, but we continue to work on that. As you see, as most of you probably read in the paper, in some of the blogs, let me just say, some of the blogs out there push this anti the three on the council message. In fact, we had a community member a couple of council meetings ago come and speak before council about we don't have equity because there are 3 Blacks and 2 non-Blacks on our council. So have to fight that, but a lot of times just staying focused on the vision and focused on what we campaigned on and what are issues that are going to bring our community together and community stronger and bring us into the 21st century, bring us up into modern day, and not stay stuck in the past of this mythological past of it was just a beautiful green lovely fairy tale community when there was issues in the past. So I know you guys only have so much time, so I'm going to put a comma right there. And again, thank you for having me. Thank you for supporting me. And I'm looking forward to your continued support because I may be on the ballot in 2024. Thank you.
Open to questions.
Yes, Sherry?
I'm so sorry that the police association walked against you. Do you think that was strictly because of your support of alternative policing measures, or could you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, that's a definite yes, capital Y, capital E, capital yes. And their fear of us really looking at the budget in an through an equitable lens. Because for many years, you look at most city, the bulk of the general budget fund, it goes to the police department. And then, you have people going, well, why don't we have these programs, or why don't we have potholes? Okay, we're gonna need to shift some money. We need to shift the money over. So we have programs for our youth. So we have money for infrastructure. So we have money to support small businesses or small minority owned businesses. So a lot of that they got, one candidate, I'm the police person. And so I guess they felt threatened. From an unnamed source, I was told one police officer told the POA, it's dumb for you to endorse against Monica because she's going to win this again. So why are you guys being stupid? So yes, it was because of my stance on looking at the policy at our police. That's basically looking at all the policy in our police department.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
Oh,
I didn't do it by myself. But
next question is from Paola.
yes, Paola.
Please unmute Paola.
Thank you. Hi, Monica. Congratulations and thank you for what you do. I just want to ask if you can go a little bit more in depth into and you are correct, the labor trafficking issues that you're seeing in the county. I mean, is it just prostitution or is it, forced labor at restaurants? Because that's happening. Thanks.
Thank you. That's a very good question. So when you think of human trafficking, that's the overarching. So there's sex trafficking and there's labor trafficking. People tend to talk more about sex trafficking, which is happening and is on the rise, but you also have labor trafficking. So on the labor trafficking side, it could be in the agricultural industry, which we see way out here in far East County, where people are bought here and promised one thing and get paid another. I just worked on, because in my day job, I work with survivors of human trafficking. We are just finishing up on a case of a young man from Namibia, and he was enticed over here. He was promised a college education and that he would eventually get placed into the MBA. He got over here and immediately went into labor trafficking, where they forced him to work in restaurants. Different jobs weren't paying him, saying, we have your papers, you have nothing to do. So we just are currently working on that case of getting him the support, the resources that he needs, and getting him connected back to his family and seeing what it is that he wants to be. Because he did say to me and the other caseworker that he wants to go into culinary arts school. So we're trying to get him stabilized and hopefully get him into culinary arts. But then also on the sex trafficking side, we see young women throughout the Bay Area. It's a crime that doesn't discriminate, and it's not, although majority of victims of human trafficking do come from low income or underserved communities, but that's not, we still see it across the board. We do see lots of young women, young men getting recruited in by the Romeo boyfriend. I have a young survivor victim that works with me who's recruited out of Deer Valley High School just down the street from me, and her trafficker was a woman. So we see it happens every day, and it's just making sure the community is aware. Sometimes the police department is supportive of me on this, and sometimes they aren't. So I'll just keep yelling with my bullhorn on the top of a building saying this is happening and how do we save our community.
Thank you. And where did you say you worked again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, my day job, I work for an organization called Love Never Fails. We have now 6 safe houses in Alameda County that serve the whole Bay Area. We do search and recovery. We do survivor education. We have a workforce training career path. We do educational outreach. We do street outreach. We do, when the COVID was happening, we did online outreach. So it's just basically getting out in the community and helping and providing that resources to survivors that are out there.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. What do you hope to accomplish in your term of office?
That's a good question. I mean, to continue the work that we're doing, like I said, the mental health crisis team is not there yet. And I want to bring that across the finish line. Definitely, the transitional, the conversion of the Executive Inn on 18th Street being converted into transitional housing for our unhoused community that hasn't come online yet. Would like to see that continue. definitely supporting Councilmember Torres Walker with the new department around public safety and community engagement, making sure that comes to fruition, that it happens and we get funding around that. But continue some environmental work. We really need to look at, do we need more gas stations? Also looking at making sure we're healthy, our communities have access to healthy foods, access to clean water, access to healthcare, just making sure that we have a healthy community. I'm looking forward in hopefully the near future, bringing a series of policy around healthy communities.
Okay. I guess I need to introduce the next candidate,
Thank you.
and that is Tamisha Torres Walker. And let me see if I can find her box and see if she's unmuted. Tamisha, would you kindly unmute? Tamisha, are you there? I hate to say this, but shall we go around to the next speaker?
Well, let's hold on a minute. Give her a second. Tamisha, can you hear us? Well, I think we can move to the next person and then go back to Tamisha, unless she
Okay.
comes on in the next 3 seconds. The next person, Jennifer.
Sorry about that.
Here she is.
Okay,
Welcome.
you're on. Tamisha, I'll say a little bit about you in introduction. I'm going to post your old campaign website, and this is and the copying is giving me some fits now. All sorts of dialogue boxes are coming up that shouldn't be coming up, and okay, there we go. And you're in Antioch City Council, but District 1 instead of District 4. And you got in a recent election. And I guess what I'm going to say then is take it away, Tamisha.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
All
You're
right,
coming through
great.
loud and clear.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm not on camera and it took me a minute to hop on. Actually been directed by the doctor to stay in bed. I had an unfortunate accident yesterday that injured my knee.
Ugh.
But I'm here. Tamisha Torres Walker. I am a city council member for Antioch District 1. This will be a second term for me. I originally ran in 2020 and beat out an incumbent and won a 2-year seat. And due to districting, I had to run again immediately and just won re-election to a 4-year seat representing the same district, and am currently acting as the mayor pro tem for this year. And so I'm really excited. I know I was asked to talk just a little bit about my experience and some of the things that I've been able to accomplish as a newly elected in the city of Antioch, and I won't take up too much airtime because I know folks will have questions. And so I ran in 2020. It was a difficult run. I didn't have a lot of name recognition, but I organized in the community and I wasn't even sure if it was something I wanted. But I ran again in 2022. I actually really wanted it. I wanted to win because despite some of the challenges I faced as a newly elected and activist in the community, I felt that I needed to run to win another term to finish the work that me and my community got done in my first term. And so I often say, I'm not here to be reelected or liked. I'm here to get to work. for the folks who voted for me. And so in my first term, some of the things I was able to accomplish with a lot of work, you know, you never know how hard it'll be to get another vote. Learning a lot about, you know, the Brown Act and, you know, using different strategies to get my colleagues to move on different issues was what I spent my first term doing. And so a lot of work around police accountability and transparency were some of the orders from people who elect me, was wanting to have more accountability and transparency and quality policing services. And so some of the biggest things to be able to push was a lot of reform in the police department. The things that were my goals was body cameras and dash cameras, ending chokeholds or any hold that might cause asphyxia to an individual in custody, as well as civilian police oversight body. And so was able to work really closely with the police department, the city attorney, and other colleagues on council to really shape those policies. And so as a public policy maker myself, I have 14 years of organizing experience under my belt in public policy around reducing incarceration. I got a great opportunity as a council member to actually sit and write and shape those policies for our police department with a community perspective from it. And I'm really proud of that work and the work that continues to happen to reform the department. As we all know, we're facing some challenges with staffing. Because public safety to me isn't just about policing and fire. We did a lot of research with community, created, you know, community created a space to organize called Reimagine Antioch. And we start thinking about what else do we need as residents in this city with our expanded view of public safety, and started to push to create the Department of Public Safety and Community Resources, because we know that we need to be able to manage city services very well. They need to be centralized, available to the community, a lot more public facing, as well as bringing in funding for youth who face, you know, who are underprivileged and don't have a lot of resources in this city, who may face contact with the police department or the criminal legal system. So bringing in a little over $400,000 to provide resources to those young folks while co-creating the mayor's apprenticeship program to give young people an opportunity in an apprenticeship program where their background wouldn't matter, what they've been through wouldn't matter. It's just an opportunity for them to get some training, to get some life skills and some other resources and work within the city, and hopefully that would turn into jobs for them. The other thing that's really good about this department is violence prevention and intervention. So working really closely with organizations like My Demand Action and the county health department and other residents across my district in particular, we were able to raise $1.8 million to invest in community-based strategies to prevent violence in our community, and especially focusing on gun violence. And I'm really excited about this new department. Just to be honest, it'll be I think it'll be the third most public facing department in the city, other than code enforcement and the police department. And just creating a lot of opportunity for residents to come work with the city. I was also able to advocate for, I believe it's about 7 individuals who will be trained to be community engagement officers in our city. And it's my understanding that those positions are filled. They're filled with Antioch residents and they're ready to hit the street any day. Also spent some time supporting Councilmember Monica Wilson in the creation of her initiative around crisis response on the heels of the murder of Angelo Quinto, and being really excited about that work happening on the ground in the city of Antioch pretty soon. And the list just goes on and on. As somebody who never saw themselves as, you know, an elected official, never you know, saw myself as running for office, I was able to accomplish with the help of the community and organizing around tenant protections as well. So important as the last region that's affordable. We need to keep housing affordable for our folks. And so rent stabilization was passed, and looking forward to continuing that work around increased tenant protections in the city. And so 2 years, you know, it it was so much that was able to get done. And I think the climate in a situation, especially organizing it as a community, allowed it to happen. And I kind of had a duty to run for a second term to make sure that those things weren't just voted on and put in place, but that we had time to implement them effectively so that the community can actually see the results. And our doubters can also see that, you know, the work that this campaign pushed forward to do is really going to benefit our residents.
Okay, we have two hands up. One's been up for quite a while. That's Cordell. Please unmute and ask your question.
Yes. Can you hear me, Tamisha?
Hi, Cordell.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes. So the only question that I have is the Antioch City Council thinking about like hiring a consultant to replace the city manager as well as, oh no, let me back it up, to hire a city manager as well as an assistant city manager?
Yes. So we haven't had any official conversations, but we definitely know that we need a process to hire a city manager and assistant city manager. My desire has always been that we can make that a public process. I've had some great experiences in Richmond in the past about doing public surveys to find out what the community would like to see in a city manager and things like that. And so we haven't talked in detail about what could happen, but I know the council is committed to making sure we get good people in those positions and soon.
Okay, the next question is from Paola Laverty.
Hi there. Thank you, Tamisha, and congratulations on the successes, especially getting the rent control passed in Antioch. Here in Berkeley, we have rent control, and we know what a valuable tool it is and a protection it is for tenants. But I do have a question. And actually, I have two questions for you. So my first question is Antioch suffering from a staff shortage? Do you have staff shortages, for all the different departments? Because I can tell you here in Berkeley, there's a huge deficit in the number of we have a huge number of vacancies. And my second question too is, what's the status of the housing element for Antioch? And if anything you can share about the housing element. Thank you.
Yeah, so to your first question, the city of Antioch has, to my knowledge, been understaffed for a while. Across every city department, they're understaffed. An economic development director wasn't hired to 2017, didn't have a budget to 2018, and didn't get additional support in that department till 2018, and it's still only 2 people. And it's not because the previous councils or the current council hadn't budgeted for those positions, not that those positions aren't in the budget and roll over every year. It's just the recruiting individuals and getting the right people in those positions have been a struggle. Now, if you speak directly to the police department, which I've been trying not to do these days, this police department is understaffed. It's been understaffed for a while. It's been complicated to reach the committed numbers from the council. And it's just made it even harder as this investigation goes on. There was a incentive package passed by the council to incentivize more folks to come into Antioch. On the heels of most recent events, this council is probably going to have to do something additional to assist the department in this getting to the desired staffing levels. And so I always tell people that every department across this city is understaffed, and it's because it's not a small town anymore. And so we have to get to where we need to be to serve all of our residents.
Are Paula's questions answered?
No, there was a second question regarding the housing element. Thanks.
Yes, we're done with the housing element. We just updated our housing element. It was a public process, many meetings with communities to talk about in lieu fees and other things that need to be in the housing element, but we're done with that process right now.
And it was accepted.
Yes.
Approved. Okay, thank you.
Lower your hand, please. And final question, I guess, is from Iris Mariones.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask the elected officials from Antioch, and thank you for being here today. I know a lot of cities are having a shortage with regard to staffing and recovering from the pandemic. I also wanted to know if you were still facing a budget shortfall and how you were addressing that. And my second question is, you know, the 9 Bay Area counties, you know, we have lost redevelopment for quite some time. And what is manifesting is a housing shortage as well. And the NOFAs, that the money coming from the federal government is not a lot. And it costs so much money to develop affordable housing. Is there any thoughts around going back to the state and asking the state to bring redevelopment back to California? Thank you.
One, I can't remember any conversation our council has had to talk about doing advocacy at the state level to bring redevelopment dollars back. I think it would benefit cities who are trying to meet those RENA numbers and develop affordable housing greatly. Antioch has had quite a few developments since I've been on council, and I think Council and Wilson or anybody who's been here longer than me could speak more to that. And your other question, I'm trying to remember
Your upcoming budget.
We've fortunately for Antioch, we've had a pretty balanced budget since I've been here. We're of course always warned by staff that we don't want to reach a deficit, but we've been able to fund all of our programs, use our ARPA dollars wisely. And even this year, we still have a pretty balanced budget.
Okay, I'll throw in the usual. What do you hope to accomplish in the rest of your term?
Well, I did so much in my first term, which was only 2 years. So my commitment in this second term is just to make sure that all those things that were advocated for are implemented effectively. A lot of times, you know, it's not enough just to pass a policy and walk away. You got to make sure it actually works for the people. And so that's my commitment. I know infrastructure is another challenge. So I think I'll be spending most of my second term implementing things from my first term, as well as advocating for infrastructure improvements in my district.
Okay, I guess we're ready for the next speaker,
Yeah.
Jen Esty.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gordon. Okay, the next person is going to be, Jennifer is going to be introduced by OREB board member Richard Lee.
Thanks, Carol, and thanks, Jen, for being here. So our next guest, as Carol mentioned, is the always amazing Jennifer Esteen. Jen is a registered nurse and organizes for SEIU 1021. In addition to being the fierce community advocate that we all know she is, she's a good friend of our Rev East Bay. We supported her in her state assembly race last year, and she knows that we all love her. Earlier this year, Jen ran for 8M delegate in Assembly District 20, And not only was she elected, but she got the most votes of any candidate running in that district, which is very exciting. I first met Jen about 2 years ago. And this was before she announced her candidacy for state assembly. This was at an event for eventual DA Pamela Price. Jen, I don't even know if you remember this, but that was the first time I ever had a conversation with her. And I was just completely struck immediately by her warmth, by how real she is, how genuine she is. And none of that has changed. None of that has changed at all. And we're very happy that she is here with us today. And Jen, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. That is heartwarming. Going to make me start tearing up. It's really excellent to be here with you all. Our revolution, our revolution. Even just saying our revolution makes me feel like that's what this is. You know, we started the morning off. Thank you for referencing the ADEM conversation, bringing together over 60 elected ADEM delegates and caucus chairs from our California Democratic Party, because in order for us to truly impact our democracy, as we just heard Tamisha and Monica talk about working together, we have to work together, and we have to work across our state and across county and all throughout the Bay Area so that we can build strength and make change. It's true, I ran for state assembly last year. It was an exciting race. You know, I stood up to challenge a 10-year incumbent, which people say is political suicide. They told me not to run. A lot of people are discouraged from challenging incumbents because it is complicated and feels like an uphill battle. And it was, but you know, whatever, this is what it is. We have to fight for the revolution, and that means we're going to fight some uphill battles. So in July, I launched the campaign. By December, the incumbent announced an early retirement. Seems like maybe we actually won. Right after he announced his retirement, there was a new candidate that came out. And so interestingly, the very first endorsements that this candidate had were the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, and the attorney general's newly elected assembly member wife. So one thing that I knew from that moment was that not only did we have a campaign that was successful in dethroning the incumbent that wasn't serving our community, we had a campaign that was recognized as so strong and powerful that the very highest leaders of this state needed to weigh in on what was coming next. And it ended up being the fourth most expensive primary in this state in terms of independent expenditure money. Millions of dollars were spent to make sure that this revolution didn't get to Sacramento. Whew, that was heavy, really heavy, y'all. And I'm not gonna lie, it impacted me personally, it impacted me professionally, it impacted me financially. You know, I'm a working parent, a registered nurse, and for 6 months went without pay while running that campaign and while recovering from the loss. And I want to tell you, there's a quote that came to me recently from Miriam Kaba. And the quote is that hope is an exercise. I think I'm saying that wrong. Hope is an exercise. We have to continue to work on building hope and strength and courage in our movements. No matter what defeat we may suffer, there are victories to be had all along the way. So here I am back again as an elected ADEM, elected to the executive board of the California Democratic Party, and ready to rock.
For city council, you'd be so good.
Somebody needs to mute.
And the beautiful thing is, I live in an unincorporated area of Alameda County. Thank you for mentioning city council. There is no city where I live. We don't have a governmental structure that includes a mayor or city council. So in my community, I am active as a member of our unincorporated municipal advisory council to the Eden area. I was appointed by our supervisor. I also serve on the Alameda Health System Board of Trustees as the vice chair of the board. And the Alameda Health System serves tens of thousands of residents here in Alameda County who are dependent on Medi-Cal, which a lot of people are being cut off because our government is no longer keeping automatic enrollments that were so beneficial during the COVID crisis and are now going away. But we are here as the public safety net, and I'm so honored to be able to serve as the vice chair of that board of an agency that has $1 billion budget and $3 billion of operating revenue. I come to you today to say thank you for all of your support, for endorsing my campaign previously, for organizing with me in the community, and to let you guys know that I'm still here and that there is more to come. I'm going to put a link in the chat. I'm going to have a friend put a link in the chat so that if you guys want to stay up on what is coming, because there is some stuff coming real soon, and I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need your support. I might even need your endorsements for those of you who are electeds. And more than money, I think what I'm going to need is you to come out and talk to people and knock on doors with me and have hard conversations about what we want our community to look like, where it could look better, and what investments need to be made. Because everybody knows that we have so much. We live in the wealthiest area of the wealthiest state of the wealthiest country on the planet. And we are still fighting for resources as if we don't have enough. But we don't have to operate with a scarcity mindset. Not here. We absolutely have enough. We just need to make sure that it's allocated appropriately. So I'm going to stop right now. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sherry, go ahead.
Jennifer, we are always so glad to have you with us. You are just an inspiration to all of us. And I'm going to kind of rely on your experience with the healthcare industry. What do you think we need to do to get healthcare passed in California, universal healthcare? I know that the campaigns are starting again, and I think everybody on this call will do whatever we can to get it passed. So you have the floor. Let's tell us what we need to do.
It feels like an aspirational attempt, and we live in a capitalistic society, right? So things are driven by money. And right now, our medical system is also impacted by the control that doctors have on things, and doctors have really opposed universal health care. I think that in order for us to have a realistic chance, what we saw with AB 1400 was that we needed much more participation all around. And the Healthy California Now Coalition and California Nurse Association really wrote the legislation and presented it to folks. And I think what we might have a better way of winning is if everybody comes to the table to make edits and really make adjustments so that we don't have any poison pills in the legislation, and so that we can actually have collaboration and cooperation when it comes to our state legislature. But also, you know, I was running for state office. In order to pass a bill, sometimes with our Democratic supermajority, we still only get stuff passed by 1 or 2 votes. And that's because we don't have leaders who are willing to take stands that are hard, that are willing to really get behind ballot measures and initiatives that are going to pass. And the influence of money on the Democratic Party is frightening. You know, I think people are really afraid. The recall process is problematic. And in order for us to move legislation, we have to have bold, brave leadership, and people have to do the work. You know, a lot of legislators endorse bills and then do nothing. And that simply won't work. We have to have legislators and elected officials that will not only say this is the policy we need, but also educate people in our community so that they vote the right way. You know, we had some Prop 15, which would have brought $12 billion to our schools statewide every year, didn't get passed because so many legislators, including the governor, signed off on that bill, said, yes, I endorse it and support it, and then did nothing. And when legislators sit on their hands, but continue to get reelected, then, you know, it's going to be hard to get healthcare. It's going to be hard to get funded schools. It's going to be hard to get changes. It's a lot of things we need to do. It's a long answer to a short question.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sherry, did Jennifer answer your question? Cool, cool. Anybody else have a question? Feel free to raise your hand.
Okay, Jen, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
I know we'll be in touch. Okay, our next person is here. I was getting a little worried there. Our next speaker is Nikki Fortuna Boss, and she's going to be introduced by Richard Lee.
Thanks, Carol. And just a reminder for anyone who's not a speaker, if you could please kindly mute yourself, that would be great. Well, Nikki, hello. Our next guest, as Carol mentioned, is Oakland City Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass. She currently represents District 2. She first joined the council in 2018 and was Oakland's first Filipina American council member at that time. I first met Nikki a year and a half-ish ago, I think, but she's someone whom I had admired even before then. She's been a prominent fighter in Oakland and the East Bay for housing and tenants' rights, for workers' rights, for public safety, and just a myriad of other things. She's really smart, and she's somebody who works for the people. And what I most like about Nikki is that she's a coalition builder. Of all the people that I've talked to that either know or don't know Nikki personally, I feel like I've never heard actually anybody say anything bad about Nikki, which is pretty rare. I think it talks a lot about her character, and it talks a lot about the way she serves her constituents and the people that she represents. So I will turn it over to Nikki. Thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here with Our Revolution East Bay. I am in great company here, not only with all of the women, but with all of you as participants as well. So thanks for having me. I wanted to just briefly share a little bit about the work I was able to do in my first term and what's ahead for my second term, and especially this next year. I will share my impact report in the chat in a little while, but I do want to start off by saying that the work that we have all done together around working to advance housing as a human right, to advance community safety, violence prevention and healing, and also to make sure our budget in Oakland represents our values. I feel like we have made a lot of great progress over my first term over the past 4 years, even with an administration that was not aligned with us as a progressive movement. And so around housing, I'm really proud that we were able to work with tenant rights organizations and pass one of the state's strongest eviction moratoriums. And I'll talk a little bit about what's next on that. We've also been able to create a program in Oakland where community land trusts can partner with housing insecure tenants to purchase their homes and take them off the market and make them permanently affordable. And with the passage of Measure U, which I was able to co-author, in which the voters passed, we actually now have $350 million in bond funding that we'll be able to put back into affordable housing, including that program, so that we can support more land trusts to help tenants purchase their homes. And in terms of public safety, community safety, I'm really proud that we have been able to not only reimagine public safety, but start to implement a lot of the things that we've been talking about to reduce the ways that police can be in contact with our Black and Brown communities and potentially cause more harm. So we've been able to create a crisis response program in our fire department to respond to mental health and low-level calls. We've been able to move special events from police into our city administrator's office. And just last month, we were able to move some traffic enforcement programs from the police into our Department of Transportation. I'm pushing to make sure that we're able to follow through and remove internal investigations from the police department to our community police advisory board. So those are some of the things we've been able to do in 4 years, in addition to making our budget reflect our values. I'm really proud that, it took a long time, but we were able to put onto the ballot in Oakland a progressive corporate business tax. Voters approved it. So we now have a tax rate that is more equitable, more fair, so that larger corporations pay their fair share and smaller local businesses get relief and get the services they deserve. And that's going to help us deal with our budget this time around, where we have a pretty significant deficit in front of us. So those are some of the things that we've been able to do together. I'm just going to put our impact report into the chat here so that you can take a look at that. And in terms of what's up ahead, I do want to speak about affordable housing and tenant protections. It's a huge issue in Oakland because our city is majority renters. And in the coming weeks, I am introducing a proposal that I drafted in partnership with tenant rights organizations to phase out our eviction moratorium and to improve tenant protections. If you all are watching Oakland politics, you know that there's a really strong landlord lobby, not only in Oakland, but also in Alameda County and elsewhere, that has been pushing to end the moratorium as soon as possible. I don't believe that's the right thing to do, because we're still working in Oakland to get $13 million out the door to low-income tenants as rental relief. And we want to make sure that we can prevent a wave of evictions as we phase out the moratorium. So I'm really hopeful that we can do a phased approach and also partner that with putting rental assistance funding out there and improving tenant protections. We have a community meeting this Thursday, so you can learn more about it. And then we have a big committee meeting on April 11th. And then hopefully this will go to the council later this month. So that's a huge priority. And of course, how we spend our affordable housing bonds is a big priority. We have another community meeting.
Before I put it in the garbage.
We have another community meeting on April 12th to get your input on the types of affordable housing programs we should be investing in. And then, of course, we've got our 2-year budget that is happening. And we'll have a series of town halls. My budget town hall is going to be on May 20th. So those are a couple of the things that are coming up for me in Oakland and the district I represent, District 2. I'll put our town hall on the eviction moratorium in the chat here. And I'd love to have just a little bit of time to hear from you. So I'll stop there, Richard, and would love to take any comments or questions that folks have.
Thanks so much, Nikki. Cordell, I see your hand is up. Go for it.
Yeah, can you hear me, Richard?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so hi, Nikki.
Hello.
So the only question that I have is, you mentioned about the city administrator. Has the city of Oakland come to a conclusion on who they are they going to have a consultant to do the recruitment for this position? That's it.
Cordell, you're asking about the city administrator position. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yes. Has the city of Oakland reach out to a consultant to do the recruitment?
Yes. We've had a consultant doing the recruitment. I heard the mayor conducted several interviews recently, so I believe that the mayor's in the process of finalizing the hiring. At least that's what I hope. But I know she's already done some interviews.
Cool. Thanks, Nikki. Cordell, did Councilmember Boss answer your question? Just making sure.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Perfect. Sheila, I see your hand is up next.
Unmute.
Hi. Hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure to hear from you, Nikki, Councilmember Boss. I don't know how you want to be referred to here.
Nikki's fine in this space, thanks.
But I'm delighted to hear your concerns about taking away the moratorium on evictions, because I think so many people in Oakland are on the street right near where they used to live because they've been evicted, and now face homelessness. It's, we're dealing with a major crisis. I myself have been working with a number of young people, a couple of whom are formerly homeless, around what's being done for homeless children. And do you represent Oakland High School by any chance?
I do represent Ojai, yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're having we've been meeting with them. There's there's a group there that's working on homeless law. And so I'd like to be able to forward you that information and invite you to the meeting, you or your staff, to talk about the kinds of solutions that we've been working on with them. And I look forward to participating in, if we can, in your town hall where you're looking at different alternatives around housing. I don't know if you've considered containers as a way of building quickly and efficiently and arguably creatively and very creatively with moving forward on that line. So I don't want to take up any more time. I do really appreciate the leadership you show on so many of the progressive issues in front of the council. And I look forward to potentially working with you at Oakland High School.
Great, Sheila. My staff and I have connected with the legal program there at Ojai. I would love to reconnect and invite everyone to the Measure U Affordable Housing Forum that we're doing on the 12th.
On the 12th. Thanks. Thank you. Can you list the best person on your staff or the best way to get in touch with you? Could you put that on chat?
Yeah, you can just email me, and I do have some staff who help me manage my email. So I'll put that into the chat right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Igor, I see your hand is up.
Hey, good to see you, Council President. And this is less of a question, more of a thank you, because I have gotten the good news, I think on Friday, that you have been, well, you've just been always a champion of reimagining the police budget. And what I understand is that the budget that is in the process of being rolled out will have as a priority reallocating some funding towards traffic violence reduction and prevention. And, feel free to also speak to your leadership as well for the benefit of others. But I just wanted to say thank you.
Sure. If I can, Richard, I'll just quickly say that traffic violence in Oakland, after 35 people died on our streets, and many, many more have died on our streets and in front of our schools, is a huge priority for the entire council. So that definitely showed up in our budget priorities. So we are going to be looking at this budget and how we can improve the common sense infrastructure improvements that will make our streets safer for folks, whether they're walking, biking, strolling, or what have you.
Thank you. I do have a quick question myself. I want to check with Carol if we have time to ask it.
Go ahead, and this will be the last question.
Cool. Nikki, I know that the tiny homes community next to Lake Merritt has been particularly near and dear to your heart. That's an effort that you led on. I read something recently about that community potentially shutting down in the summer. And I wanted to ask if you could sort of explain what the situation is going on there and what will happen to the residents who are living in that community.
Sure. So that parcel of public land is owned by the city of Oakland, and it was among the first examples of using city-owned public land for an interim use of supporting our homeless community while we were waiting for development to happen there. So the city administration actually made a decision to close the program in June because the funding for that program is coming to a close. So they will be working together with the housing provider to make sure that the remaining residents have access to permanent housing, and a number of them already through some housing vouchers and the Oakland Housing Authority are on their way to permanent housing. So there's a couple things that will happen. One is making sure that everyone who's in the program has the services they need to get on a path to permanent housing. Two, I am working to find some bridge funding so we can continue the program longer, as well as potentially relocate the program. And ultimately, what's going to happen on that site through a lot of advocacy and partnership with the community is 2 100% affordable housing projects. The first of those programs, which will build about 91 affordable units, is going to start construction as soon as the beginning of the year if all of their funding comes through. And so the city administration had made a decision to close it because of the funding running out, as well as that potential construction timeline. But regardless of how all of the details play out, I am 100% committing to making sure that everyone in that program has an opportunity to get into permanent housing, that we continue it by identifying new funding, whether it's on that site or a different location. And then I'm also working to move forward not only the Ebaldsey project, but a second project that's coming to council at the end of April, so that there'll actually be 2 100% affordable projects there. And to Sheila's point, we're also prioritizing folks who are formerly homeless, as well as transitional age youth for those units.
Thank you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks so much, Nikki. Okay, our next guest, I'm not sure if she's here or not. It's Barisha Spriggs. She was here, and then I'm not sure if she's here now. Can anybody see Barisha? Are you here? Okay.
Carol, I did not see her.
No, I don't either. So she may be back. We'll see. So we'll move on. Our next guest is Jovanka Beckles, who I am very, very pleased to get to introduce. I first met Jovanka, must have been 2017, when our revolution was just starting out. And she came to one of our very first meetings. If you think we're green behind the ears now, you should have seen us then. Anyway, so I've done things with her for years. I'm so pleased she's running for office again. I think everybody here knows her. So a big welcome, Jovanka.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you so much, everyone. All my OR people, comrades, siblings, relatives, y'all, thank you so much for the love, so much for the past love, the current love. You all have been incredibly supportive of every campaign that I've had the pleasure of participating in. And I say participating in because none of those have been my campaigns. They've been our campaign. They've been a movement building approach to obtaining power in government and power to be able to create policies that benefit the majority of us, right? Not just the few, the many, not just the few. The campaigns that have always put people above profit, campaigns that make the status quo shiver, make them go to great lengths to stop us. And we've seen that, the lies that have been told, and yet we still prevail. I forgot to say, as you all know, Jovanka Beckles, I go by she, her pronouns. I am currently the AC Transit, on the AC Transit Board of Directors, once again, because of grassroots support and from organizations like OR. Prior to that, I ran for the Assembly District 15 at the time, and that was a really powerful campaign that propelled us into the general election, and from a field of about, I think it was 13 people, right? We prevailed, got into the general election where, unfortunately we were not victorious, but in that way, but we were victorious in ways that just sometimes is not really noted, by the press and folks. We were victorious because we showed what a grassroots, volunteer cadre of folks can really do. We can go up against millions and millions of dollars, as we've shown in Richmond on the city council, as we were able to see from the assembly race. Now, we know, you all know, because you are so politically savvy, you all know that Nancy Skinner's seat is termed out next year. So for the 2020 election, I am proud and honored to say that I'm going to be running for that seat. And not I, right? As we say, not I, we are going to be running for that seat. And, it will be in, quite an uphill battle, of course. But, I know that being the badasses that we are, the revolutionaries, the amazing activists that we are, we're not intimidated by uphill battles, and we're not intimidated by big fights against the status quo, right? We are always willing to take it on because we know that the greater good is at stake, the greater good of a clean environment, the better good of a just system and a just society, the better good for, equity. And so that's why I'm running today, family. I'm running because I want to be, I'm running to be a voice for those of us who've historically been silenced. And you all, I'm looking at all of your beautiful faces. You all know who those of us who've been silenced are. That is Black women. We've been silenced historically. That is women in general. We've been silenced historically. People of color, immigrants, the unhoused, those who are other abled and are not able as are abled in many other ways. Gosh, those of us who are struggling to pay our medical bills and dental bills, the list goes on. So many of us that have been silenced, and I want to be a voice for us in the Senate. As some of you may know, the current Senate, California Senate, has 40 seats. Of those 40 seats, there's only one Black woman. And that indeed is a travesty that I believe we can remedy. Of the 40 seats, there's only one Black male. So we have 2 Black folk senators in the state of California, one of the most diverse states, and coming from the most diverse region of the state, we have only had one person of color, and that was in the 90s. And let's see, by show of hands, who knows who that was? In the 90s, the last person of color that we had representing us in the state Senate. Let's see, Cordell knows who that is. All right, Cordell, props. Yes, Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee was the last person of color that we had representing the East Bay. And again, I say a huge travesty that I know that together we can win, we can remedy, that needs to be remedied, because I think that oftentimes we forget to see things through a racial equity lens. So granted, yes, so far in the race, we have some wonderful folks running. Dan Cap is one of the people running. Jesse Again is one of the people running, and Catherine Lieberger, who is also a labor person, a labor champion like myself. But when we look at things through a racial equity lens, we have to say, okay, what's going on here when we don't have a representative body that looks like the people that they represent. So I'm running for all those things. There are many different things, but different issues that together I hope that we can bring forward. Reparations is one of them. Healthcare for all, housing for all. We need a seamless transportation system. Right now in the Bay Area, we have 27 different transit agencies, and there's not one management one manager of those agencies. And so if you are trying to commute from Fairfield to, I don't know, let's say San Jose, for example, you have to transfer so many different times, and the cost of that is really pretty enormous. And so I really want to also work on us having a seamless system in the Bay Area. So together we can do it. Don't let anybody tell you we cannot do it. You know, of the folks running for office, I believe that I will be the most viable based on my track record of having introduced and passed the most progressive policies, not just in the Bay Area, but in the country. You know, Richmond, when I was on the Richmond City Council and we passed the ban the box policy, thank you to Misha, I don't know if she's still here, but working together with the Safe Return Project, you know, we at City of Richmond was the first city in California to pass a ban the box policy that basically helps people who are returning citizens to be able to get employment. And then the state eventually passed it for private entities, but Richmond did that first. We gained national attention for that. We did that first in Richmond. We were the first city to bring rent control, right? First rent control policy in 30 years. We did that in Richmond. Again, I never take full credit for any of these things because this is not something that I did on my own. I did it in a collaborative approach, bringing in the community, bringing in all the policymakers, all you activists, to create these kinds of bold, revolutionary, progressive policies. And so in this race that's coming up, everyone's going to be a progressive. We know that. But I ask you, think about, who have you seen walking the line with your unions? Who have you seen at every single one of these when BART workers were running, right? We're fighting for fair contracts. When the workers of AC Transit wanted a hazard pay, which by the way, I led, championed, and got for them. Who were the ones that you saw walking with you at every single one of these things? Because whoever that is, and I believe it, the answer will be, it was me, it was Javanka Beckles. You can then say, well, then that is the most progressive candidate that we definitely need to support and endorse. And I'd be humbled by it. I'd be honored to once again receive your endorsement when that time comes. But in the meantime, you know, we always need money. We definitely need volunteers. So that's something that can be done right now before even your endorsement process begins. So thank you so much, y'all. And I know I want to leave time for questions. So thank you so much for listening.
Okay, I think the one hand I see right now is Cordell. Cordell, do you have a question?
Yes. Hello, Javanka.
Hello, Cordell. How are you?
So,
I see you everywhere, young.
I know. So I'm gonna keep this short. So
okay.
The only question that I have is you mentioned about transportation. I've noticed that AC Transit has been having some concerns. Like with not enough bus operators. So is there any plans that to bring in more bus drivers, because it's getting to be a concern?
Absolutely. You know, Cordell, I tell you what, you always have, you come with the good question. So thank you so much for that question. And absolutely, AC Transit is doing, we're really working hard. My colleagues and I are really pushing staff to create ways to figure out how we can hire more bus operators. There's been some challenges in that process. And I'm curious to find out what that is, because staff has said that, we are advertising in the radio stations that I listen to. I hear it on KBLX, I hear it on Q102. I mean, I'm hearing it on these different stations. AC Transit is hiring bus operators, and yet we're still having a hard time finding it. So my question is, why is that? Why is it that we're offering a $2,000 hiring bonus and we still can't hire operators? So this month on the 10th, I'm going to be convening with the members, because I believe that the workers, they know, I believe the workers have the answers, because they are there, they're on the front lines, they see the challenges. And so I'm going to be meeting with them to ask them what is it do they think is going on and what can we do? Because I've heard from some of the operators already, and they have told me some things that I don't want to share with you, but it's very concerning, very alarming what's happening. And so I'm going to be meeting with the operators to find out what their thoughts are. But yes, Cordell, the answer is we're working really hard to be able to hire operators so that we can bring back all those lines that were cut. Because I believe that the only way that we can bring back ridership is it's not going to be by cutting services. The only way you bring back ridership is you have more lines, right? And a more dependable line. So thank you so much for that question, Cordell.
Okay, thank you, Cordell. I see Paola has her hand up. Would you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just a real quick comment, just to follow up. Hey, Giovanna,
what's going
go,
on,
go,
Paola?
go, Miha, go. I just a question regarding, and this is a question I asked earlier too. Besides the shortage of operators, you have all these other people who do support staff for the operators, mechanics, the secretaries. Do you know if the agency itself also has a shortage of staff, not only of that? Because it seems like all government agencies have a shortage everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, good question. At AC Transit, we've actually been more focused on the operators because that's what we see. That's the service aspect of it. But yeah, I believe, there's been, I don't know if most of you have heard about the gray tsunami, right? Which means that a lot of people are eligible for retirement, and during the pandemic they took it, right? And so in addition to the operators, I'm imagining, Paula, but I don't know, we haven't discussed that, and so it didn't seem like it is as great a concern as for, let's say the operators who determine how many bus lines we're able to continue to have or bring back.
The reason I ask is because, like in Berkeley, we have an issue with the HR department. And so HR is short staffed, so that's a hard time hiring. So I'm just kind of wondering if that's also an issue there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yep. So any other questions? If there are no other questions, I just want to say thank you, Our Revolution. Y'all are badass, and y'all recognize the issue that we have in this country, and that's an equity issue. I've been looking at every last one of the speakers, all of these awesome elected officials, and every last one of them have been BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, people of color. So right on. I appreciate all that you do, and we see in this country what can happen when we have progressive Black and brown elected officials that are specifically women. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Javanka, and we'll be in touch shortly.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, as we move along here now, we have two more people. We have Pamela Price and Barisha Spriggs. And I would just like to mention, again, we talked early in the program how this is kind of the tail end of Women's History Month, and we're celebrating women. And we have Pamela here who is outright making such history right now. Anyway, and Pamela's going to be introduced by Sherry.
Well, I get the privilege of introducing the District Attorney of Alameda County. And our theme today was empowering women. And I have to say, as my friend, Pamela encouraged me to be empowered to sort of fight against some of the powers that be in the Alameda Central Committee, and to stand up for my beliefs as far as inclusivity and transparency and some of that. So not only is she our wonderful new district attorney, and therefore, like all of you have said, that the minute we shine a spotlight on the problems in any of our governments, whether it be Antioch or Alameda or Oakland or Berkeley. The group on the other side finds ways to sort of tear down our house and to criticize. So I am so privileged to, anytime Pamela wants to come to this group, she knows she's always welcome. And Pamela would like to share with you some of her experiences. Pamela.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, OREB, for having me. Yes, I'm the first non-appointed, non-anointed district attorney in Alameda County, literally since 1925. And what people call my victory is really our victory, because our revolution, you guys were early endorsers, you fought on the front lines, you were there. We did this together, and we took this seat on behalf of the community. And as Sherry has alluded to, the status quo is pretty pissed off. Okay, they are extremely upset. They lost the election and they want to have a redo. And so there's all this noise about recall, which I want to assure you all is really not valid or a legitimate thing. It's just something to try to intimidate me or my supporters or our administration. We are not intimidated. We are doing the people's work. We are happy to be able to serve. I can tell you, everybody on my leadership team is working really hard. But we are, under attack by the media and by the right wing and by the racist, and they are all coming together to try to undermine, or not undermine, because I can't really undermine it, because we are doing the work and we are rebuilding this office that literally was in a shambles when we got there. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but there is certainly a concerted effort to make it appear that somehow what we're doing is inconsistent with what the voters asked us to do and what we were mandated to do. And so my ask for you today is to help us push back against that narrative, to remind everyone that we have been voting over and over and over again since at least 2012 against mass incarceration. And the people who are crying out and whining in the media and making a big deal out of nothing, these are people who want mass incarceration, who were perfectly happy with the racial disparities that have infected the criminal justice system, that were perfectly comfortable with the kind of corrupt and unethical office that we saw, that we have walked into. And so they're now not comfortable with that anymore, because we are in fact changing how the office operates and how we administer justice. And so, yeah, there's a lot of folks that are unhappy, but we beat them. I want everybody to remember, we defeated the opposition, and you all were key in Berkeley, the work that was done. I see Paola here, and Sherry and Carol. I mean, the work that all of us did to really win Berkeley and win across the county was people work. It was something we did because we love our community and we knew that it was time. And we were very, very fortunate to have won this seat, which is an extremely powerful position. It's one of the only constitutional positions in the county government. It is not, as a district attorney, I'm not subject to the board of supervisors or the judges or anybody. It's really, I'm only accountable to the voters, and to carry out the will of the voters is what we are about. My transition team was so concerned by some of these attacks, and I want to echo what you heard Jennifer say. What I heard Jennifer say, it is hard to run for office. Let's not forget that. It is personally taxing in so many ways, on so many levels. It is truly public service and sacrificial to run for office. And then for Black women, we first face the double whammy of both racism and sexism. And we're often expected to show up, as you all know, in the Democratic Party. Look at Nina Turner, right? I mean, we fought those battles, right? Kimberly Ellis, we fought those battles. We are often expected to show up make a difference, which we do. But then when it comes to being in positions of leadership and power, we're supposed to wait our turn. We're supposed to sit down and be quiet and not have a voice. And we're somehow, I can tell you one of the things I want to ask you all to not do and to stop doing, to stop, not that you all do it, but one of the things that is so irritating is when people compare our administration to Chase's administration, because Alameda County and San Francisco are completely different communities. Chase and I are completely different people. And yet what I see in the media, and we've been rejecting that internally, is that Chase somehow is the gold standard of all district attorneys, and our accomplishments and our efforts are measured against what happened in San Francisco. And that is such a false and offensive narrative, because fundamentally it's racist. It suggests that only the white guy can be in charge of a district attorney's office, okay? And so it's very irritating. I want to make sure as we move forward to change, or not change, but just remind our community that I am part of the progressive movement across this country. I was part of that movement. We elected Chaser. Okay, and you all know I supported Chaser when he ran because I had already run the race. And us winning in 2022 was a natural progression of the progressive movement to bring progressive district attorneys into these roles. Let me talk a little bit. I don't know how much time I have, but I'll talk quickly about what we found. We did not have an effective handoff from Ms. O'Malley. Someone described it as she basically threw the keys at me and said, here, figure it out. It's an organization with 450 employees, inspectors, administrative staff, victim witness advocates, and lawyers. The lawyers are only 1/3 of the staff. So when you see these people whining on the news, or, oh, I quit my job, or I had to leave, they are 1/3 of an entire organization. Okay. And there's a whole lot of people there who are committed to the vision, as we have found, and we're working with them, and we've brought in many people. But what we found was an organization that had no structure. The lines of accountability and authority were completely flawed. For example, Ms. O'Malley gave us an organizational chart, and we compared that against the county payroll. There were 45 people on the payroll that weren't even on the org chart. And we've been spending time trying to figure out who are these people, where are they, what are they doing? We found one last Friday who was not on the org chart, who has not been coming to work, who's been getting paid for the last 90 days because he has a relationship with the finance director. And so there were all sorts of misclassifications in personnel that we've been sorting out and finding people, a lot of challenges for the organization. I don't know how to me, running an organization with 450 people and you don't have an HR department is crazy. We have 9 locations and no facilities manager. It's crazy. I mean, there's just so many things that we literally are having to build. One of our greatest successes, though, is in the area of mental health, which, as you all know, that was one of my commitments, was that we were going to move quickly to alleviate the 5150 crisis. Javanka has been partner with that, and the spokesperson on how devastating it is that Alameda County is not responding appropriately to people suffering with severe mental illness. And so we found the collateral courts, 10 courts staffed by 1 person on the collateral courts and 1 person on the behavioral courts. So you have 14 courts being managed by 2 lawyers, which to me, that's just impossible. And we have expanded that team to be 8 lawyers and 2 mental health clinicians, which they never had. Just kind of basic things that you think about that really will improve the services. We did the first ever in-depth survey of all the employees, as well as individual survey of all the victim witness advocates, and invested in this. So we're making some significant inroads inside the organization to build it into something that actually serves this community. My transition team just recently issued the 75-day report. because they wanted people to know, look at all the things that we have been able to do. So I just put the link to that in the chat. I would urge you, please, please, please take the 75-day report, push it, publish it, tell everyone you know, these are all the things that we encountered when we got there. Not even all, but just a lot of it. The highlight features, trust me, there's a whole story. I will be writing a book about this at some point because you would not believe it. You can't make this stuff up. But I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer questions. I just appreciate you all so much. Thank you again. We won and we're going to continue to win. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Raphael, I see your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple questions if I can. So first off, just wanted to thank DA Price for taking the time to talk to us and just say, wow, it sounds like you basically had to rebuild the department structure from scratch. That must have been really challenging. I appreciate your doing the work to do that. I think that a lot of people might be comparing you to Chesa to sort of try and create a negative narrative, like, you know, sort of be able to reuse the negative tropes and campaign stuff that they used against Chesa against you. Do you think it would be more reasonable to compare you to Diana Becton because, you know, you're both at the county level and so on?
I think it's more reasonable. I prefer the comparison to Kim Foxx because she has been on the front lines of the progressive reform movement. And, you know, Contra Costa is Contra Costa. And I know you all are combined with Contra Costa, but it is a slightly more conservative world over there, whereas places like Chicago and Philadelphia and New York and Virginia, those places, they have actually, they to me are mirror much more the progressive electorate that we have here and the challenges that we have. You know, we have Alameda County is a hub for sex trafficking. We have the gun violence. These things are not as prevalent in Contra Costa County. We really, to be, well, we're not a small county, but we actually are. I find that a lot of what we're experiencing is mirrored in the larger counties around the country versus Contra Costa.
Thank you. And my other question was with regards to sort of the concept of justice, as I asked earlier, do you think that justice can include retribution? And if it can, do you think that it has to?
I think that justice cannot really include retribution because, and that's a very philosophical question. I mean, obviously we're operating in a system that is fundamentally based on punishment, and it has been bred in, and that's the way that's the only lens through which this system operates, is how do we punish someone? It doesn't consider what I find the primary, after representing victims for 40 years, what most people want is to make sure that it doesn't happen to someone else. And that doesn't always, rarely involves retribution, doesn't always involve punishment. It usually involves figuring out what the source of the problem was and how do we make sure that it doesn't happen again, which means you have to be, at some level, you have to be looking at what led that person to cause that harm. And so I don't think that just philosophically, retribution doesn't get us where we need to be, which is to stop the behavior from occurring and to protect people from being subjected to it again.
All right, thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Oh, Gordon, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Are you picking up flack from inside the Democratic Party machinery?
Yes. I mean, I think we all know the Democratic Party machinery was not supportive of our candidacy, and they worked very hard to prevent us from prevailing in the June election by putting candidates in that they knew were poor candidates. And then once we got rid of that person, the person that they put in there, then they, you know, united around this other person who didn't even live in Alameda County. I mean, as I said to the police chiefs, not only did we run a better campaign, but I was a better candidate than that person. but he received support from the Democratic Party machine because they really were not prepared for the kind of progressive transformation of the criminal justice system that we all know is absolutely essential. So as we know, the party pays a lot of lip service, whether it's those in the local party or those at the state party level. It's easy to pay lip service to criminal justice reform, but it is hard to actually do the work.
Thank you so much for that. And Nagin?
Thank you, DA Price, for telling it like it is. You are such an inspiration. I just wanted to just follow up on the Chesa question, or actually the situation. It's that a billionaire or a group of billionaires or people outside of this area can run a campaign through their money and get people like Chesa, a person like Chesa who was popularly elected, bother him from the get-go, and they had 2 recall campaigns against him. Although it has nothing to do with what you're doing, it's about that concept where a very small minority, through their money outside of the area, can influence elections here. That's an interesting situation, and one that we hope will never get repeated. Again, I also wanted to ask you, as far as like the Democratic Party is concerned, what do you think we can do in Alameda County? Because I know they do co-opt so many campaigns. I've seen it and I felt it personally. What are we to do when we have a 2-party system that really leaves so many people out? And you're an example of how things can happen, but give me the secret of what you think we should be doing.
It is persistence. You all know I ran for Central Committee in 2016. I got there. They did not welcome me. Sherry was there with us. They were so hostile towards me. They were racist. They were hostile. They made it clear I was not welcome. And they, did not want me there. And I had to deal with that for 4 years, but we persisted. And then in 2020, we ran a progressive slate across the county and we brought in more people. And, more recently, we really, but as you said, the danger is that you bring people in who profess to be progressive, pay lip service, and then they get there and they see, oh, the power is really with these people. So I'm going to flip, even though I said I was progressive. Now I'm going to go with the status quo, because my purpose for running was not to serve the people. My purpose for running was to run for a different office, or to get the support that I need to be able to run for this or run for that. And, it's like Pastor Michael McBride said something on the radio I heard a few years ago, and it hit me. He said, it is not surprising that many people of color, this is an analogy, it's not surprising that some people of color are reaching for whiteness, because white people have all the privilege and power in this country. So if you want to be part of the privilege and the power in this country, you want to reach for whiteness. It's the same thing in the Democratic Party, and where we see those who run and get our support and come and say, oh, I'm a progressive, I believe in this and this. But then when they get inside the party, they see, oh, these other people have the power and the privileges. So let me reach over there. Let me do what they say. And it is unfortunate that people get co-opted. So I think we have to vet people so carefully before we agree to support them. And, I know as a Black woman, not all skin folk are kinfolk, okay? There is a difference between Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas, okay? And we have to be mindful of that when we're looking at people. And it is important, as Javanka pointed out, you gotta look at somebody's history. Where have they been? What have they done? Have they been on the right side of justice, or are they just jumping up now saying, oh, I'm this or I'm that because I want to get your support and I need to be elected? It's a challenge. It is always a challenge to really make sure that people are sincere and authentic. And I must say that one of the things I'm not proud of, but I appreciate is that people understand even in this moment that even those who are attacking me are saying, she told you what she was going to do. She's doing what she said she was going to do, right? I get to be criticized for being an honest politician. And too many of our politicians are not honest politicians. They just want to get that support. They want to have that label. They want to get that OREB love. And then they're going to go with the flow because they are not prepared. They really want to be part of the status quo. And those are the people that we should not be supporting.
Thank you, Pamela. Rivka, can you make it really fast because we're running behind time now?
Yes, hi Pamela. Can you say just a little about your priorities for the next period and how we could support you apart from trying to influence the media, etc. But what are your upcoming priorities?
Yeah, my priorities are to finish the realignment of the collateral courts because that has been such a successful effort. And it is something that I think everyone in this community should appreciate and should be able to get behind. And as we're looking at that, it's continuing to invest in how we respond to people in mental health. The CARES Navigation Center is open, but it is being incredibly underutilized across the county. So we're restructuring that. The next thing is to build a community support bureau within the DA's office, because there's a lot of ways that we want to engage with the community, that we want the community to have a voice. For instance, we've created a mental health commission. We're building a reentry commission. We need to have the administrative support within the organization to work on those. We're also looking to created a gender justice bureau that will reinvigorate our attack on human trafficking in this county and gender-based violence against women in this county. Beyond simply we're going to expand the services of the Family Justice Center, but we're also going to break down the silos that have been created in this office. As Gordon says, I'm building this office almost from scratch. And we are encountering substantial resistance from the Prosecutors Association. They're very entitled. They think that they should have the right to determine all the policies. And as we know, they are not, in favor of criminal justice reform. At least as an organization, they have been adamantly opposed to the will of the voters of this county. So that continues to be my focus on how do I build an office and create an office that actually serves the people. We're looking at juvenile justice, some very serious issues around juveniles that we have to deal with. And we're looking at police accountability because, every day you find out there's some other cop that's done something crazy that has been going on. We just found out today the head of or the secretary for the San Jose POA has been dealing fentanyl out of that office. And that's the same office that was used for the PAC that supported, that opposed us in the election. Say some committee for safe neighborhoods that had nothing to do with Alameda County, but now we have to figure out, was drug money used in the 2022 election to oppose us? I mean, it's a never ending saga. Okay, you can't make it up.
Thank you so much, Pamela. You are always, always, always such an inspiration to all of us, and just keep on fighting that good fight.
I absolutely will. And I appreciate you guys' support. Please keep the word, keep spreading the word. We are really fighting a good fight. And we have to, because the forces that have held the criminal justice system and the residents of this county hostage for 100 years, they didn't just evaporate in November. They're still there, and they are doing their part to disrupt our progress. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pamela. And you're always welcome here. Last minute call in, you can come. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, we've got one other awesome woman to speak, and then we're gonna maybe hear some updates from Igor, And then we have open mic where anyone can share anything for up to 1 minute. Okay, so our next guest is Barisha Spriggs. Are you here, Barisha?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Barisha is another person that jumped in at the last minute today. She's an elected official in the Democratic Party on the Central Committee. I remember back a couple years ago, was it 2020? When I voted for her. So she's on like a regular ballot, not just this ADEMS thing that some of us got in on. Okay, she lives in a place called Ashland. And I know some of you have never heard of Ashland because first time I talked to her, I'd never heard of it. And actually, Jen Esteen lives in the same non-corporated, I guess unincorporated is the word, place out kind of around Castro Valley, Hayward. And she's done amazing things in trying to get services to the people out there because they're really basically, because they're not an incorporated city, they're basically ignored by Alameda County. And she's been a real warrior out there. So I'm really happy to welcome Barisha here today.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I'm an elected member of the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. I ran in 2020 with Pamela Price with the statewide People Power Progressives. I'm very proud of that. And I was also appointed where all the elected Central Committee members are appointed to the California Democratic Party as a delegate. And then later I was appointed to the executive board of the California Democratic Party Central Committee. So actually, if people don't know, like, you know, we're unincorporated. We're part of the Eden area, which is 150,000 people who have no city level government or services. We have no mayor, no city council, and it's a really big disenfranchisement. It's a constitutional issue. And so we depend on the Board of Supervisors totally for everything. And we're mostly ignored. And so, you know, I have been very frustrated with a lot of things, but particularly the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, because they've gotten very conservative. Alameda County Supervisor Chan passed away, unfortunately. And then also Valle. Within 18 months, they both died. And they were our champions in the unincorporated area. And also Carson. And they were our champions for getting things done, particularly for renters' rights. They helped us pass the Alameda County temporary eviction moratorium. It was primarily for the unincorporated area, even though it did extend across the county. We were the ones that really started that process with Wilma Chan and the Eden Renters United group. And that's for the unincorporated renters. And then we were trying to get some other renters protections passed. And we were literally unable to do so. It was a few weeks ago, and this Board of Supervisors is completely conservative, anti-union, anti-renter, just completely, so I am looking forward to the work that we're going to be doing on the Central Committee with the new delegates. I'm going to run for re-election, of course, but we need to really get a good set of supervisors in there. They just appointed a new supervisor. She is also pretty conservative. She's, so she has to run for re-election in March. And I can tell you that the unions will put some money into someone else that is more progressive. Hopefully it will work, because the person that got the seat, Elisa Marquez, has a lot of name recognition. And so I'm looking forward to the organizing at the county level and the state level to, get all the issues, get the criminal justice reform, get the renters protections, getting Medicare for all, but also on the county level as well, of changing the dynamics with the board of supervisors, so that we can really get some progressive things passed for the county and for and so I'm glad about the new ADMs, and we're going to be working together to make a change, because there's a lot of obstacles to really hurdle at this particular time on so many different levels. And so I will be looking to organize and supporting the progressive candidates that will be coming out over the next, especially in 2024. So that's really what I wanted to say. I wanted to give you guys that update. So yeah.
Okay, great. Barisha, thank you. Let's see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions for Barisha? Well, you locked out, because sometimes people have hard questions. Anyway, thank you so much for being part of this today, and keep making history, all you women. So the next thing we're gonna do, Igor Tregub is gonna give a little bit of an update on solar. Igor.
Thank you so much. This is going to be a quick update, and it's not just going to be on solar, although it will. So it will be on 3 priority climate issues that are happening right now. I'm also going to post a link in the chat right now so that we can take action together on these. So the first one is a bill that is known as SB 252 by Senator Lina Gonzalez, advancing fossil fuel divestment. So this is the same bill that we supported last year, and unfortunately it got stuck in a committee that was chaired by a conservative Democrat who is no longer there. So we're trying again. And we would love your support again to divest public pension funds like CalPERS and CalSTRS from fossil fuel entities. That's number 1. Oops, sorry, I think I put it in twice, so you only have to sign it once. By the way, this is an invitation to sign on in your individual capacity, so you don't have to, although I would obviously love for the organization to also take a position. Okay, next one is signing on against AB 538 by Assembly Member Holden, who is the head of the Energy Committee that is pushing this. This is a bill around grid regionalization. It sounds great, except it really isn't. This bill would remove local control from our opportunity to advocate for a resilient renewable energy grid. It would make it even harder. It's already hard to get any traction for distributed generation in the annals of the state legislature, except for a few allies we have there. Everyone else seems to be on the investor-owned utility payroll. This is going to be this will make it harder to get traction, to get more rooftop solar and battery storage options available, because imagine how hard it is now, but if you're dealing with the Federal Energy Resources Commission, it's going to be even harder. Also, states have locked themselves into a contract with the federal government and now can't get out of it. So it's like Hotel California, you can check in, but you can never leave. This is actually kind of one of the times that we're actually on the same page as the state building trades, because this proposal would be devastating to labor standards, because it's proposing to basically import energy, even if it's clean energy, it's still energy without any labor standards from states like Wyoming and Utah that are workers' rights states or worse. So anti-union states. Bad bill, bad proposal, bought and paid for by energy corporations. Please join me in opposing. Last one is an opportunity to once again defend rooftop solar. Oh no, did it say we want to oppose? No, we want to support SB 252. Thank you, Rafael. I'll make that change in the form. Thanks for catching that. No, so you know how we were able to, together with 700 other organizations, stop the utilities from imposing a solar tax? Well, they are doubling down and really showing their true colors, because now they're going after the multifamily solar. This is the solar that serves tenants and some homeowners in condos, but really it's solar for tenants, so that tenants are able to benefit from the same opportunities that some homeowners get to benefit from in terms of savings on their energy bills. And so because and unfortunately, the so-called Public Advocates Office of the California Public Utilities Commission, which is supposed to be advocating for the public, is doing the opposite. It also wants to demolish the system. So we are going to be doing a 3-month campaign around this issue. We would love for OREB to join us in this campaign, and we would love for you individually to join us as well. This is sort of just, it offends all of my sentiments and sensibilities, and I'm sure all of yours as well, because literally this is the utility and state agencies that are captured, that are supposed to be protecting us, but are doing the opposite, going after tenants. And that is effed up. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I see Paula has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Igor, for that report. 2 things. I just want to clarify. Are you still working as a lobbyist for a solar company?
I have never worked as a lobbyist for a solar company, but I am a paid employee of the California Solar and Storage Association, where I serve as its Director of Strategic Partnerships. We are a trade association that represents 760 members. 60% of them are small businesses installing rooftop solar and battery storage. Typical employee size is orders of magnitude less than PG&E, 5 to 10. Many of them are worker-owned, BIPOC-owned, veteran-owned, and or women-owned. And in many cases, all 4 of those.
Great,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
the
Thank you
opportunity.
for that clarification. I appreciate that. Also, my second question for you, and I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Can you talk more in depth about solar for tenants? I am a tenant. My building does not have any solar power, no solar panels. My next door neighbors do, however, but can you explain that, like for somebody like me, how would that even impact, or somebody who actually has solar and who lives in a building where their landlord has put solar on there?
Absolutely, yeah. So in multifamily buildings, this is a, if you ever hear the words virtual net energy metering, I will put that in the chat. That is basically the radical concept that you, the utilities, even if you're a tenant, should be able to control your energy bill. So what happens in that system, which is the one that utilities are now trying to get rid of because it cuts into their bottom line, even though they just paid their CEO a $55 million bonus last year. Instead of a meter for every unit, there is a single meter. And then any energy that is produced that is above the energy that is needed to power the building, it could go back into the grid and result in savings. And those savings are shared between all the tenants on the property, depending on how much energy usage each of those tenants uses. It also results in savings for the property owner. So it's a win-win-win. There's nothing like rooftop solar. It's the only issue that brings together tenants and landlords, realtor, it's saving money for everyone, but it produces less money for investor-owned utilities, and that's why they're trying to get rid of it.
Thank you, Igor.
Okay, were you complete, Igor?
We are, and I have fixed the form. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You know, it's getting really late, and I'm kind of pushing now. Right now, we have 1 minute intros or whatever, comments, information. I particularly encourage people who haven't said anything tonight or who have never been here before, even if all you do is get on and say, I'm so-and-so, that's fine. We just like people included. So would anybody like to? Anybody like to speak?
I would like to sing a song called Wonderful Friends.
Oh,
which,
okay. This
was
is
written-
1 minute things, and let's let people first, and then you can sing.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop recording after people are speaking, so we don't record the sounds, okay?
Oh, that sounds great, Michael. Anybody, Nelson, did you want to say something?
Everyone, thanks for a great meeting. Thanks, Julia.
What, Nelson? What'd you say? Thanks for what?
Thanks for closing it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I have one announcement here. Cordell put it down. I believe he wants me to announce it. Our Revolution East Bay is invited to the Richmond Rotary Club meeting April 28th, 12:30 p.m. at the Richmond Country Club. $25 for lunch, and Mayor Eduardo Martinez will present on policies.
Interesting.
Okay, and Sherry's got something?
Well, number one, I want to say that our speakers were just fabulous today. And I just can't think of a group of people that was more interesting to listen to. So if everybody else loved hearing from this and loved being part of our revolution, we do still need to keep the lights on. And so we hope that you all join us. If you haven't already, go to our site, Our Revolution East Bay, and join up. And we were talking about endorsements earlier. So if you are a member and you attended this event and you attend our events, then you can participate in our endorsement process. So
Yes, you would get to vote.
you get to vote. So all of this is very important. And as everybody said, the only way that progressives get elected and get things done is from grassroots support. So we hope all of you will support the candidates and support us. Thank you.
So, okay, Carol. So this song I wanted.
I think so. Michael, do you want to cut the recording?
I'm doing it right now.
Okay,